Um, on Wednesday, The Guardian, that bastion of liberal opinion, published an article that said how Keir Starmer staved off a Gaza vote crisis. And then I looked at the chaos that had descended on Parliament, and I thought, God help us if Keir Starmer ever fails to avert a crisis, because that would be some kind of mess. I just want to read you the difference between the two motions that were put to Parliament. So, as Drew has said, the SNP motion was very clear and very direct. It said, this House calls for an immediate ceasefire. That's completely unambiguous. That's exactly what needs to be said. Now this amalgam of piffle and fudge and poppycock is what was put in its place. This House supports Australia, Canada, and New Zealand's calls for Hamas to release and return all hostages, and for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, which means an immediate stop to the fighting, and a ceasefire that lasts and is observed by all sides, noting that Israel cannot be expected to cease fighting if Hamas continues with violence, and that Israelis have the right to the assurance that the horror of 7th of October 2023 cannot happen again, therefore supports diplomatic mediation efforts to achieve a lasting ceasefire. Now, this is just a way of avoiding having to do anything whatsoever. Now, Keir Starmer was interviewed by Sky News, and in the interview he stated quite clearly that he wrote this nonsense, that he, as he said, carefully crafted this motion on his return from the Munich Security Conference, where he had discussions with representatives from Qatar and Isaac Herzog, the President of Israel. Now, Isaac Herzog has been photographed writing his name on bombs that were going to be used on the people of Gaza. Not only that, but the words of Isaac Herzog were cited in the International Court of Justice as showing intent to commit genocide. Now, one really has to ask at this point exactly whose national interests are being served by our politicians in Westminster. Because it would appear that the Labour Party puts the interests of Israel above the interests of ordinary British citizens. They're going out of their way to demonise good people, people of conscience, people with compassion, people who care about what is happening to other people in other parts of the world. They're going out of their way to demonize people who protest in the name of humanity and in the name of saving the people of Gaza from an ongoing genocide. Now, this separation between politicians and people is one of the most dangerous aspects of our current society, because people are becoming more and more and more cynical about politics. And they have every right to be cynical. But this path was pioneered by none other than Tony Blair when he took Britain to war on behalf of America, despite the fact that at least 3/4 of the population were opposed to going to war in Iraq, at a time when the largest demonstration ever in the history of the British Isles took place, when 2 million people walked through the streets of London saying, "Not in my name, stop the war." So the beast that is crawling towards Westminster under the name of the Labour Party is moulded in exactly the same flesh as the party that took us to war in Iraq. And we know how well that turned out. So, as Drew said, it's very, very significant that the SNP were prevented from putting a decent, humane motion to Parliament to allow people to vote in the name of humanity for a ceasefire. So we now have the duty to try and persuade our local politicians, our Highland councillors, to do the decent thing. And on March the 14th, they'll have the opportunity to do that. And really, all we need for them to do is to pass a motion saying, we demand an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Why cannot our councillors bring themselves to say something so straightforward, something so humane, something so principled? That's what we need to get. So please, keep up the pressure. Keep writing to your councillors. If you get the chance to talk to them, then please bend their ear. We will be there on March the 14th to lobby them on their way into the council buildings. We're going to have to be there pretty early, apparently, because they sneak in pretty early. They get away from us. So we're going to have to be there about 8:45. And I regret to say, at 9 o'clock, I've got to go to the dentist. So. But I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there before, and I'll be there as soon as the blood has stopped dripping from my mouth. So what do we say? Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Free, free
Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
We are thousands, we are millions, we are all Palestinians! Hey! Yeah. No, sorry, I thought you were...